You were looking at a cheap diaphragm pump bought off eBay for about 20 bucks. This is how I supplied air to my fish room for the past 3 years. It goes to a Y, which goes to two manifolds. This manifold on the right powers these six 20-gallon highs. Then it also follows the ceiling up on top. And it powers one 20-gallon long and two 40-gallon breeders on this side of the wall. The left side manifold powers one 75-gallon on the bottom, which I'm not showing it here, but that's two 75-gallon tanks right there. And it runs across. Oh, but hold up. Anyone guess who drew these? They look familiar? Priscilla MK Arts, ring a bell? Anyway, she drew these. Big shout out to her. She does a great job. So it continues, follows the ceiling, and it runs one 20-gallon on top, and then six 10-gallons. These metal eyelets is how I had the airline tubing on the ceiling. There's a bunch of airline. Now I'm just showing pretty much that it's all taken down, the airline and the metal outlets themselves, so clean slate, ready for some PVC piping. So we're going from China made to Japan made. These have really good reviews, so I'm hoping it lives up to what they say. So this is a Jehmco LPH45, I believe. Here's a bunch of PVC fittings and stuff that I needed for this project. And of course, you always have to hit the hardware store a few times. So in the instructions, it did recommend installing a pressure gauge. So I figured why not, since I spent the money on the pump, why not spend an extra 15 bucks in PVC fittings and the gauge itself, so that way I have a way to regulate the system and watch the system. Up here, that's just a bleeder valve that I'm going to install on the line, going from 3/4 to a 1/2 inch. And this other assembly here is something I've been thinking about, so I can hook up my diaphragm pump in case this linear air piston pump ever were to fail on me, that I could hook up my diaphragm pump up to the system to run my tanks until I get something fixed. This island needs the code for sweet revenge on a world that doesn't speak for them, and thought that they could just ignore us from the forest, helping everybody else, but then repeat the trend. Instead, they heard the death survivors from the... So at this point, the whole system is set up and running. So I'm just going around showing you that I got all the PVC attached to the ceiling, glued together. There you can see I bumped out for the window. I used all 45-degree fittings. Instead of one 90-degree fitting, I used two 45-degree fittings when possible. So here's that pressure gauge. I bought a 0 to 30 psi, and as you can see, the needle barely moved. So really, I need to get a 0 to 5 psi gauge. That way I'd be able to watch the system and see if I have build-up pressures or what's going on. This gauge itself had a little like tire outlet on the end. If you were to check your tire on your car, this was labeled as a test gauge. So I'm assuming you would set the air pressure whatever you want and then test it with your tire gauge and see if it matched. So this next one is my bleeder valve. I'm going from 3/4 PVC to 1/2 inch PVC, which then is attached to a old Python hose, which just goes down to the ground to help noise reduction. So what I did, I took my farthest tank, I opened the valve till the farthest tank didn't have any air. I shut the valve until the farthest tank had the amount of air pressure that I wanted, and that's how I set my system. Continuing on, going around the room here. So this next thing is for my my backup or my emergency in case my linear air piston pump were to break. I installed this here so I can use my old diaphragm pump that I was using. And I did check, it does run my fish room. Not as good, but it'll get me through some tough times if I need. If I would have thought about this better, I just would have used my bleeder valve, which was on the other wall, to do the same things. That way I wouldn't have needed this. Would have saved me probably $5 or so in fittings and whatnot. So here I'm showing you my farthest tank off of the system, which is in the opposite room. So we start here, we come down about 4 or 5 feet, go back about 4 feet. Here we are on this side of the wall. When I make this look better, it'll be coming over about 4 feet, coming around the corner a couple feet, so it'll be at about 14 feet on this airline. And as you can see, it's running the sponge filter just fine. So here you're getting a sneak peek of my beta sorority tank. It is a 40-gallon breeder. It's got 6 betas. It will have 14 Rasbora hets, and it will have 9 panda cories when it's all said and done. I got more Rasbora hets and panda cories in quarantine currently. So my air valves are self-tapping, but they required me to drill a size 14 drill bit first. So these are the air valves that I'll be using that I also bought from Jehmco. As you can see, they got threads on the end. You put a little Teflon tape on her and you're good to go. There's Teflon tape. So as you can see, I got Teflon tape there on the end. I have it in my drill chuck, which that's how they recommend doing it. I have it in screw mode. I have it on 1, which is low, and then the torque I have about at 9, which is practically nothing. So the trick here is to go into the hole at the same angle, same everything that when you drilled the hole with your drill bit. You want to be at the exact same now when you're tapping here. And since I tend to over tighten things, I just made sure that I had a couple threads in, then I loosened the chuck, and then I turned the rest in by hand. Just that way I didn't have to worry about going hog wild on her. So here's my old pump, and I'm just testing out my theory that if my linear air piston pump were to fail on me, that I could hook up my old diaphragm pump up to the system and run all my fish tanks, which it does. So you see I have it plugged in here. I have the ball valve open so it can fill the system. And over here on the linear air piston pump, you can see how that ball valve is closed. So now I can power the Fishroom with the diaphragm pump instead of the linear air piston pump. As you can see, it does have air bubbles, so it'll definitely work if my linear piston pump goes down. The one on the left is the old diaphragm pump, and the one on the right is a new linear air piston pump. What a difference.